Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for January 4th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if Pastor Matt Hafer could come and open us up in prayer with Bridgepoint Church.
All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for this opportunity for our local leaders to get together and discuss things that affect us all, Lord. We pray that you bless this conversation. We pray it's honoring to you. We pray for unity, and we pray for wisdom in this room tonight. We thank you so much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, item 2 is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 3, the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file A, the minutes of December 7th, 2021 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, revenue expense report and balance sheet for the period ending November 30th, 2021. C, accept with regret the resignation of Keith Godfrey from the Compensation Committee effective immediately.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Okay, motion in support of Ms. Janizek. Discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Up next is public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Come on up. Now would be the time to speak to any agenda item. So, yep, up to the microphone. Yep.
Make sure that green light's on too. It's right on the base here.
It's, yes, it is, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. My name is Jose Meda. My partner, Eggy Villanueva.
Just make sure you speak into the microphone or close to it, or we can't hear you.
Okay. Yes, he lived in the area for quite a bit. He has, prior to his new address, he's been in 3 different homes that he, I am American citizen. We consider ourselves Mexicans, but I was born in this country. So what we're trying to do that, it's very, I get kind of shy to talk, but we want to just explain that we want to do business here. We're so happy. We love the people. We want to spend the money here too. We're not the type of people that they come to this country, they do business, and they take the money to their countries, you know, and we don't. Matter of fact, in Monroe, I always purchase my vehicles with I forgot what was the address, but we try to spend the money here, and we're so happy to have this local small restaurant. We can see the 11 tables. We've been so lucky and so happy to be in and doing business in here, and we're not the issue, we're the solution. You know, as small businesses, we have to push them, and we're here to see if we can get you guys support.
Yeah, we're trying to get, the liquor license that
Yes.
we hear is up there. And, we want to follow the process, whatever it is, we're trying to get it, and we have the business open already.
Yes.
And everybody, everybody probably, some of you guys been there.
Yes.
We're really trying to get, like the liquor license, that you guys have up there. So whatever, the process is, we're going to follow it, and that's on you guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
You so much.
Thank you guys very much for your comments. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Highlighting secrets of the politics within Bedford Township. Many now know after the last meeting off camera, the supervisor requested I pack and move south. In spite of additional threats by political allies, including censorship, I found the courage to persevere and be the better person. Encouraged and supported by others to maintain course, tonight's informational entertainment is based on 8E and 8G. Committee member selection is essential to the well-being of the township. Thankfully, most board members realize this and have fought to do what was right for our residents over the past year. The intent of a committee must be the focus versus using a political payback format. In 8E, note the dates of the applications, look at the basic why. Momini and Russo give a clear interest for the well-being of Ivor Lindsay residents. The focus of the committee, making a selection obvious. For 8G, this brings a focus on another major concern in the township and should bring about some form of investigation. Over the last 5 years, there have been questionable decisions made by planning and the BZA. Have some of these decisions been due in part to allowing developers to fill the seats on these boards? In the matter before you tonight, the storage unit, there is a lot of info spanning many years. Some very familiar names pop up. Focus attention and discussion on the words irrevocable, PUD, wetlands, farmland preservation, and the letter of disapproval by Township Planning Coordinator L. Fortin of Manick and Smith, referencing the master plan and future land use. However, in defense of the request, Pandora's box has already been opened. Should the decisions made in other matters be a deciding factor? For a better understanding, dare I have you recall the true factors in the planning issues of Mulch King. Note, in December of 2021, a BZA zoning request was made 3 miles north and was granted, despite its being in violation of the complicated farmland preservation effort in the township and in direct conflict with current surrounding land use and will probably result in financial profit. Reasons for yea votes were in blatant violation of guidelines given by planning and call into question if all committee members have a thorough understanding of the law and ordinances to be used to determine a legally proper vote. Based on statements made that night, any farmer who has sandy soil should seek an immediate reduction in their property taxes. It seemed obvious the yea votes were clearly made based on who made the request versus the merit of the request. I'm not alone in this thought. But don't take my word, watch the December 8th BZA meeting, and then recall and take into the fact that the same person won another questionable BZA ruling about 5 years ago. While Ohio preserves their open space, we have witnessed the loss of oak opening sand dunes, a very unique environment found nowhere else, to a self-proclaimed green conservationist. Compare a more recent ruling on Jackman Road. So much destruction to the rural and unique well-being of this township and the negative impact it makes on surrounding communities. Above all else, we must be fair, balanced, and equal in our decisions. Being an elected official should not entitle power or privilege in any matter. Recalling Mr. Montroy's reference to the story of the Emperor's New Clothes is fitting in this case. In light of this info, and in all fairness, should you disregard all the concerns outlined for this ruling? Would this be proper grounds to make a ruling? Better yet, a planning committee member believes the matter deserves a yes vote based on his personal opinion that the guy is a good businessman. Do we elect someone because we knew their grandmother? Oh yeah, watch the planning meeting for yourself. And again, I ask, do we need or should we start asking the state to investigate our decision-making processes on land issues? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, moving on. 6A, approval to outfit the 2022 Chevrolet Tahoe with a light and siren radio package. You guys have your packets. Anybody have any comments or questions about it?
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. So, seeing no questions, I look for a motion. Unless you good, you back? Got the thumbs up. Okay.
I'll make motion to
Okay.
approve the purchase to outfit the 2022 Chevy Tahoe with a light siren radio package through DR Ebel in Northwood, Ohio, at the cost of $5,927.85 as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to 8A, vouchers for payment through 12/15/2021, and B, vouchers for payment through 12/28/2021. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'll make these in two separate motions. So I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $117,921.30. Fire District, $19,114.53. Police Fund, $203.60. Park Operating, $5,756.38. Fire Equipment, $3,246.03. Transit System, $12,621. Downtown Development Authority, $4,931.14. Library Operating Fund, $5,564.54. Stony Brook Brookwood SAD, $1,481.90. Deer Creek SAD, $1,345. DDA Capital Fund, $378.91. Sewer O&M Fund, $3,255.96. Trust and Agency Fund, $18,098.19, for a grand total of $193,918.48.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Januzak. Any more discussion? Comments? Okay, call the roll, please.
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Proney?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item B.
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment, and these go through 12/28. General Fund, $20,576.31. Fire District Fund, $6,388.30. Park Operating Fund, $483.51. Fire Equipment, $15,844.41. Library Operating Fund, $3,497.28. Sewer O&M Fund, $167.40, for a grand total of $46,957.21.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Januzak. Discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Proney?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8C, appointments to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I am looking for the board to reappoint Kyle Dersch to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a second term ending 12/31/2024. Mr. Dersch's knowledge of the variance process and the township ordinances is an asset to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I am also looking for the board to appoint John Strict as a second alternate to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This time will provide Mr. Strict the opportunity to serve as an alternate to gain knowledge of the process and ordinance requirements. Both are longtime residents of Bedford and experienced professionals. Comments, questions?
I have a question, Paul, on John Strick, because he came up for appointment before, and he had there was medical reasons that he couldn't do it. Has that been taken care of? Is he able to serve on this board?
I'm unaware of any medical I don't recall that from last time. I mean,
I would have to think that he is, because he did reapply. He filled
Did
out
he
new
reapply?
this
applications
is
and
September
everything.
22nd, 2021, so I mean, nothing
Okay.
I'm aware of, so.
And with being a second alternate, we've had plenty of meetings, and I don't even think we've had an alternate once, have we, Phil? Maybe one time?
Yeah.
A couple. Last
Yeah.
night, for instance, we had an alternate, and maybe the meeting before. But normally we have a full board. They're all 5 members.
But in today's day and age with, COVID, there's going to be more people absent probably.
Yeah,
so it'll be
unfortunately,
important,
that's
but-
true.
This is something Jody asked for, is to have two. in case.
And the
was
statute,
my
the statute provides for it.
As long as he can do it, I'm fine.
Okay. I look for a
support.
motion.
Oh, I thought you
Is
made
that-
the motion. I would support it.
Um,
I can make the motion.
I'll make the motion. I'll make that my motion.
Okay.
And you support?
Support.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Proney?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye.
Okay, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 8E, appointments to the Housing Commission, or,
D.
I'm sorry, 8D, appointment of the Planning Commission representative to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This request is a recommendation to the Township Board from the Planning Commission to appoint Brad Helm as a Planning Commission representative to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Township Planning Commission may recommend a Planning Commissioner member for appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Township Board may choose not to appoint the recommended member to the Board of Zoning Appeals, or, in the alternative, may choose to appoint the recommended member. The member of the Planning Commission appointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not also be a member of the Township Board. So, and the ordinance is included. So, anybody have any comments or questions?
Mr. Peroni, I'll just make a quick comment. Mr. Helm has been on, and one of the requirements is you have to have 2 years of planning experience to be able to be the liaison. Mr. Helm was the only one that his name was nominated and that felt he could work it into his busy schedule. So it was a unanimous vote to recommend Mr. Helm to go to planning as the, I'm sorry, to BZA as the liaison.
Okay. I look for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Brad Helm as liaison from planning to Board of Zoning Appeals, effective January 2022.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8E, appointments to the Housing Commission. I had a few discussions with the director. They are in the midst of some pretty extensive construction projects coming up in the future. So I think she was kind of looking for some members with that background and experience. I think a few applied. So these are the two we had come up with. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I look for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to appoint Jake and Armatron to the Housing Commission for the term ending 12/31/26, and also to appoint Cindy Momini to a partial term ending 12/31/2023.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Any
You
discussion?
should have two separate motions, one for each.
Okay.
So we'll go with the first motion first.
Okay. For Mr. Armatron, supported by Mr. Bruning.
Correct.
Okay, discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Go ahead, Mr. Gore.
I'll go ahead and make the motion again to appoint Cindy Momini to a partial term ending to the Housing Commission, partial term ending 12/31/23.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Ms. Janazek. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Proney?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8F, approval of the Monroe County Business Development Corporation Services Agreement. I have Mr. Vanasecker here if you want to come on up, if anybody has any questions. This is an agreement we've been in for many years.
Yes.
I'm not sure how many years, but I know it's been a long time.
Yeah, at least
at least 6 years, I want to say.
Yeah.
Prior to my time.
Yeah.
So.
For me, and it's been a great partnership. I utilize the BDC quite often on a regular basis. They're very involved in the community as a whole. They're very involved in local businesses that a lot of us don't even know about. They're reached out on a regular basis. They're very strategic in, like Sunrise Windows, for instance, keeping the business here and adding to it. They're very involved in the programs the state offers. They're a great tool for us. Highly recommend we keep them. So, yeah. If you have anything you want to add, go ahead.
Just the one thing that I'll add, I thank you all once again for your support over the years and for your consideration here tonight. I did look up a few of the numbers just to kind of give you some perspective. We've assisted directly on projects resulting in about $119 million worth of investment in Bedford Township since 2018. Since we were founded back in 1982, we've done about $4.6 billion worth of projects in Monroe County and have assisted in the creation of about 17,000 jobs. So we do quite a bit. A lot of it sometimes goes unnoticed, I'll say. From a retention standpoint, we're out in the field meeting with a lot of the different businesses. The one new thing that we are doing is we're starting a program called Launch 734 to work on some of that small business development, because for years we've primarily been doing industrial type work. So we are in the process right now of hiring an entrepreneur in residence to really work one-on-one with the small business community as well. So just another thing that we're trying to offer. But we're here. I know, Mr. Gore, you had mentioned during a previous meeting about the Lewis Avenue Corridor Committee. Always happy to come and sit in for those meetings just to be an extra set of eyes and ears for you. So I thank you again for your consideration.
Cool. All right. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Monroe County Business Development Corporation Service Agreement as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
First reader votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Thank you, Matt. Item 8H or 8G, request to revoke the PUD planned unit development plan and agreement and rezone from PUD to I-1 planned industrial park on parcel 5802-026-070-00 at the northwest corner of Stearns and Krebs, 100 West Stearns Road. We have a representative. You can come on up. And Mr. Steiner, if you'd like to kind of update the board as you sit on planning and, kind of get us rolling with it.
So this came before the Planning Commission on December 15. There's actually two requests within this package. Number one would be to revoke the PUD agreement, which was signed between the original owner and the township. The second item would be to remove, to remove the current zoning under PUD rules and to rezone the property as I-1 light industrial use. If that were to happen, if it was just strictly a removal of the PUD, the property itself would revert back to agricultural, which would make it an illegal, non-conforming property, and that's why they're asking to do the industrial rezoning with it. There were, throughout all the documents, I don't know if everybody got a chance to read everything, but I mean, there was a lot there, but on multiple occasions, it was mentioned and recommended by our planners that it was inconsistent with the township master plan and future land use plan and goals and strategies. The protection measures currently in place with a PUD agreement, including restriction use, increased setback screening, high-quality architecture, would be revoked and would not apply to the site development plan under the proposed I-1 industrial district. The property also includes a significant portion of land with a 100-year floodplain and is designated as prime agricultural land. A rezoning would open up the property to allowed uses under the I-1 district, some of which are likely to have a negative impact. And what that means is if the property is rezoned to I-1, that means anything that goes within an I-1 industrial zoning could be put there regardless. And the township cannot have any agreements or changes like you can in a PUD. So whatever the rules state under I-1, that's what anybody could put on that property if it was rezoned that way. The Planning Commission, they made a recommendation on both counts that did pass to recommend the revoking of the PUD agreement, and also recommended to remove the PUD zoning and recommend for I-1 zoning light industrial. Both of those motions, the roll call was ayes were Mahoney, Anger, Fritz, Helm. I'm sorry, let me grab the right one here. I lost my page here. It was Anger, Helm, Mahoney, Fritz, and Garvick were all ayes, and I was the lone nay vote on both of those motions.
Okay. Okay. If you would like to go ahead and add to it, or
yeah, Jerry Parker. I'm the attorney for the applicant, which is Tolson Investments, Tolson Enterprises. With me is Mike DeVolder, who's the general manager of Tolson. As I think I said at the Planning Commission meeting, I've been doing this a long time, which doesn't mean I know anything. It just means that I'm old. But in my experience, usually planning decisions or zoning decisions are supposed to be, generally speaking, in the public interest, in the interest or the general interest of the township or the city. There were 5 scheduled meetings for this rezoning request. There was not one person that came in opposition to it. So that would lead one to believe that there was no negative impact on anybody. But there is ample basis to support your Planning Commission's recommendation to you for approval. And they're in the motion set forth by the gentleman who recommended it. One, all of you know there's an industrial park right across the street. So we're right across from an industrial use, a pretty substantial industrial use. So the question becomes, if it's across the street and it's okay, why isn't it okay here? And the Planning Commission staff recognized that situation. Secondly, if you look at your master plan, I have a difference of opinion, obviously, on the assessment of it. If you look at the master plan, both the parcel adjacent to this on the south and the parcel kitty corner from it in your master plan are designated for in some form of commercial development. This one, for whatever reason, was left out. But they're both kitty corner are recommended for that. Thirdly, there is a railroad track that abuts our property to the south, which, you know, was relied on and indicated as a reason also to support our request. Fourthly, this has absolutely, you couldn't have a more innocuous use as a self-storage. It's already there, as you well know. There couldn't be a use that is more innocuous and peaceful and no burden on the school system whatsoever than this use. And it's a long distance from any other residential use. Now, the Planning Commission accepted my and Mr. Tolson's representative opinion that that's what's going to get built here. As I indicated, I don't stand in front of planning commissions and township trustees and say one thing and then something else happens. It's never been the case in 47 years of doing this. So they were comfortable, given the fact that there's self-storage there now, that these are going to be self-storage facilities. And technically speaking, the zoning of it does sort of legitimize the self-storage that's there now. It's a sensible use. It's a use that doesn't have any negative impact on anyone or any adjacent use. As far as the floodplain, you can build in a floodplain. That's not a prohibitive aspect to this. And as far as the farmland, we don't pay anything to the farmer to farm this because a substantial portion of this property is underwater. It can't be farmed. It's just, there's a lot of standing water. So to develop this, you sort of just do some grading that's in accordance with flood regulations, and you can build on it. That's not an impediment. So it's a good development for the township. It's much needed. Your planning commission saw the reasons, and all of those are substantially sound reasons to adopt the recommendation of the planning commission. As I said, they found those to be critical elements of the analysis, which that you got an industrial park across the street, and you have a railroad to the south of it, and it's already being used for self-storage. It's a portion of or adjacent piece by the same owner.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
I would like to hear from our planner who is sitting out here.
Okay, Lucy, come on up.
Good evening. I think most of you know me, but for those who do not, I'm the township planner. I've been since 2015, and I'm usually asked for rezoning requests. And often I go to the planning commission meeting for that, but I could not go on December 15. So thank you for letting me come tonight and hear me out. And I would like to actually make you, I have like really 3 things I'd like you to consider tonight. They're in my report, but I would like you to focus on those. The first is the PUD agreement and the agreement that you are being asked to revoke. If you revoke it, there's some protection measures on this particular piece of property that you would revoke as well. And I think, to me, that's the most concerning issue with this case. And it was very important as well in
Can you go over those protection measures?
Sure. First of all, only 5 or so acres of the property are able to be developed per the agreement. 5.64, I think, to be exact. The rest was to be left open space. So that restriction is part of the agreement. There's also, there's a limit. I think it was actually a total of 6 acres that the developer would be able to develop altogether. And the protection measures really go along the same line as the conditions that are attached to your C3 mini warehouse use. So along with that, there was also an increased setback for the units, a green belt that was required, high quality architecture was really important, and that I'm referring also to the case in 2006. You will recall that it was a developer at that time also sought, in 2003 actually, sought a rezoning to I-1 and did not, it was denied at the time. However, they came to some form of agreement, and this agreement is what's in place currently. So there was the high quality architecture and a lower height of building also, I believe. I think those are the primary protective measure or increased measure that would be revoked. The second consideration, I'd like you, and Mr. Steiner really spoke to that, is if you rezone this to I-1, you're opening up the property to all sorts of uses. And those are listed in your zoning ordinance as possible, and some of those could have a very much of an impact on adjacent property. I would agree with the developer and Mr. Parker that a mini warehouse use is really low impact, really, because there's not a whole lot of traffic and such.
I had a question that I received from somebody. Why isn't they going for the zoning for C3? Because that's what you could do storage units in.
Well, that would be a question for the developer.
And
really.
why can you answer that, Mr. Steiner?
And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the maximum for a mini warehouse type building. I think the maximum was 6 acres in the ordinance.
For C3.
To be under commercial C3. So that's part of why they would need to, other than that, they could develop as it is today if they could go outside with a commercial use. But it's limited to what you can use acreage-wise in that commercial use on that property. Am I correct, Mr. Goldsmith?
That is correct.
You are correct, and I'll add some other things when Lucy's done as well.
Okay. And the third consideration that I would like you to really focus on is this idea of master planning. And Stearns and the railroad, and anything north and east of that is meant for agricultural preservation. It's always been the case for Bedford Township. It was in 2005. It is still like in 2015, and you just readopted your master plan that way too. So Stearns is really the demarcating line north and south for the low agricultural use to the north and the more intensive industrial use or others to the south. So I believe part of the reasons that were stated in the motion for the Plan Commission is not entirely accurate. And I would refer you to the page 2 of my report, which really clearly indicates where the maps, where those existing land use versus the existing zoning versus the future land use are shown. And I think that map has been repeated throughout your packet. I'm not sure if it's very clear in your version. I hope it is. But I think you will see that it is tucked away, but it is tucked away by the railroad and north of Stearns, and it's green there. It's pretty clearly green. As far as there is residential uses, pretty kitty corner from the property. There was a clear effort in 2006 or whenever this went through to maintain a residential look to this development. So I want to emphasize all 3 of these items. I wasn't able to do that and to come to the Plan Commission, and I'm really here to address any other question you may have. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't know if this is more for Rick. So if with the industrial, and I understand they say, oh yeah, we're going to add some more storage. Oh, we're going to add some more storage units, but realistically, they can, if we do industrial, they can put whatever within the ordinance.
Whatever would fit in an industrial I-1 ordinance, not to say they would do it, and I struggled with this, I really did at the Planning Commission meeting, but whatever goes in I-1, I don't doubt them that they wouldn't do this, but they could just say, you know what, I could sell this property, we could tear those buildings down, and we could develop this as a full-blown I-1 industrial, and whatever it says in I-1, they can do it.
Permitted use.
So let's say that, they're here because they want storage units.
Right.
If they build storage units, it's very unlikely they would ever rip them all down and put up a steel. It doesn't make sense. And I guess, so the chance we would be taking is if we rezoned it and they said, hey, we're not going to do storage units, we're going to put up a steel plant instead, which, is there any protections we could put into place,
there are.
Process, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm sure that they put in storage units.
I can speak to that.
So that would cover that argument of, hey, we're taking a gamble of them not putting in storage units, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
And Phil, if you could go ahead and then expand too about the precedent though for that property, and if we have another property that says I want to go I-1, you did this property down here, why can't I go I-1? So if you could speak to that.
So Mr. Parker argued what I would argue if I was standing here on behalf of the applicant, that yes, you have an industrial park across the street. Lucy touched on it. There is a line of demarcation that's been observed by the township for many years, and it's incorporated into the master land use plan. So if you expand on that, that creates what could become a domino effect, because the next applicant comes in and says, well, there's industrial just to the south of me, so why not me? So that argument, using that logic, it can go on and on and on. So you look at your master land use plan. I know it's been argued that that's a guide only, and to a large degree, that's true. But it's there for a reason, and it's reviewed every 5 years, and it's remained consistent in that line of demarcation. So that's that, and Rick, you're right. If I would have made the same argument that Mr. Parker did, but the fact of the matter is that is the line that's been consistently adhered to for many years, and it's been incorporated into the master land use plan. Not to beat a dead horse here, but and Lucy touched on it, you touched on it, but every principal permitted use in the I-1 district could go in there. regardless of what the applicant says today, things change. Mr. Parker is a man of integrity. He's a very well-respected attorney, but he can't control what this landowner might do and what any subsequent landowner might do. So I'm not saying there's some nefarious plan to do something other than what's there now, other than the storage facilities. But without some protection in place, anything can go in there. Principal permitted land uses and special land uses if the standards that are in the ordinance can be met. If the applicant would have been really serious about just having storage facilities there, in my view, they would have presented this as a contract rezoning, because they have to do it. We can't request them to do it. We can't somehow impose upon them to do that. They have to come up with that idea, and that's a contract that's entered into between the applicant, the landowner, and the township, and you have conditions that have to be complied with, one of which would be that this would be used exclusively for storage. Then you know it's going to be used for storage. Then the township can, through that process, keep some of the protections that are in place, that are now in place through the PUD. Now, I'm not expressing any opinion one way or the other. You need to know these facts so that you can make an informed decision. Regardless of what the Planning Commission did, you're the legislative body. You are the ones who make the decision on a rezoning. And you've been given some sound planning reasons by your planner if you choose to go in that direction. So I think that's all the comments I have for you.
So as it sits right now, there's no protections we could put into place with the motion or anything. It says, hey, only storage units can go there.
Correct. What
Outside of that,
what you have before you tonight is a request after the planned unit development agreement is dispensed with, the PUD zoning is dispensed with, if you go on that, and you rezone it to I-1, you have no protections in place. It can be anything that's allowed in the I-1 zoning district, any principal permitted use or any special land use after special land use approval, provided the standards in the ordinance can be complied with. So the only way that you could have control, and it's not been requested by the applicant, and it's not before you, and I don't want any of you to ask them to do it because that's their call, and they chose not to do it. So you have no protections. Long answer to your question, but that's the way it is. And I am not challenging their integrity or at one bit, but things change. I'm old too, Jerry, and over the years I've seen things change. Land uses change. Landowners change. So there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
Could I respond briefly?
Yeah. Just let her finish up.
Add one thing to what you said, Phil. I thoroughly agree with everything you said. I believe what happened in 2005 was some form of contract zoning. And it wasn't done in that way because that's more something that came out of the 2006 Michigan Enabling Zoning Act. So this agreement that was put in place was a form of contract zoning as well. So
you would think back when they did this, they would have just rezoned a 5-acre parcel to C3 and done the storage units. We wouldn't be here.
But they still could have only gone to that 6 acres.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
we wouldn't even be talking about the PUD. That's what they have. The other's ag. I guess I don't know why the PUD route even happened.
If you read through it, I think there was some struggle even back then, though, to try to
Yeah,
go
I
even
read it.
commercial use.
They didn't,
And
they voted it down.
Yeah, it was going down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't want to also beat a dead horse, but if the demarcating line is Stearns and whatever it is, the parcel next to us is under the master plan is designated as research and development, so that's certainly not agricultural. It's right next to us, so whatever.
Existing is ag.
I guess the position is we intend to build self-storage.
Existing is ag.
What you see in the site plan, we also submitted. Now, if we have to amend our request, if we have to start over, whatever we do. We can take a deferral and submit to you a letter for a contract, zoning, whatever you'd like, because that's what we're going to do. That's what we intend to do. So if that solves the problem, we'd be glad to do it. Otherwise, and as far as just developing it further, I understand the concern, but the utilities aren't here. It's a massive undertaking to develop this property with anything other than what we're doing.
Because how many acres is left outside of what you have there now?
There's almost 15 acres.
Left.
14 acres.
It was like 14 point. Okay.
Okay.
But, you know, we would be happy to do that. We'd want to put any restrictions you want in. We're just trying to develop this as it's already developed, add a little tax base to the township and not hurt anybody.
What I would say to that is I wouldn't want to see you go and waste your time and then come back. If that's something that the board, you know, would be the only hang up, I would, you know, encourage that. But I don't know that. I guess let's have some more discussion. And I just wanted to add a few things. I did see the research and development, you know, tech zone for the master plan. Let's be honest, we're out of industrial space. You know, the township has very little. You know, we've looked at some areas, and ultimately at some point, some ag property is going to have to move to industrial, or, you know, not so much commercial, but industrial is where we really lack in this township. Now, this particular area, you know, it's already a storage unit. You know, it's not like it's vacant. They already have the use there. They're already taking up a chunk of it. Is it currently being farmed now?
Yes.
The rest of the 14 acres?
Yes. He farms it. He doesn't pay us anything, as I indicated, because a lot of it's underwater. So it's not the greatest site to farm, but yes.
Yeah. So, you know, it's as far as green space and protection, I mean, I don't see anybody over there walking their dogs or, you know, utilizing it other than the farming. Another point, we're out of storage in the community. You call every storage unit in this community, they're booked, they're full. You know, so if we don't have somewhere for them to go, they're going to Toledo to rent storage units. It's already there. You'd be adding to it. You know, I personally would much rather see it here than some of our other C3 main corners where it's primed to do something like that there. You know, so it's just, for me, you know, with it already being there, I'm 100% in favor of doing what we need to do. I would like to see some protections in place, like, you know, we've heard a little bit of, but like I said, I don't know if that's what's going to get you across the line. If that protection, if you came here today, you know, I think the board would have to say, you know, that would be, you know what I mean? Like, I want to see him leave today and come back with all the work to get here again, and that wasn't what, you know.
Well, you can't make a promise, because in my view, it would have to, if they withdrew their application today, it'd have to be their choice alone. Then they would have to make an application to to Jody and our planning department for contract rezoning for that site. It'd have to be reviewed by the planning commission. They'd make a recommendation, and it would come back here. Okay. And you know, I don't think it's appropriate for you to even ask the board members whether they would or wouldn't do it, because until it gets before you and you actually see what's been proposed by the applicant and the protections that are put in place, it would be, if it went through, it would be rezoned to I-1 pursuant to a contract, and this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. And nothing else could go, no other land uses that would be allowed in the I-1 district, if it works out that way, would be allowed. Mm-hmm. So until each board member could look at it and digest it and give it their own due consideration, I think it would be inappropriate for you to ask.
Well,
the
I
board
didn't say I was going to ask them. I'm just simply saying I don't want to see them go through this process, you know. And
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So the applicant has a decision. They can move forward. You can take a vote on what's before you tonight, if a motion's made one way or the other, or they could withdraw their application tonight for rezoning and resubmit under the contract rezoning that's allowed under the Zoning Enabling Act and go from there.
Mr. Steiner?
So, Mr. Goldsmith, if they did choose that path under contract rezoning, or I'm sorry, a contract zoning with it, and if they did go their route, if the board liked what they saw, got an approval, would that stay with the land even if they sold it, no matter what?
Yes, it would. The contract would be drafted that contract would govern that land in perpetuity unless and until both parties to the contract agreed otherwise.
I thought so. I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
Mr.
Yeah, it'd be
Montrey?
similar to what it is now then. If that's how it was originally done, it'd be similar to what it is now, that it stayed with the land. I would just state that I'd be in favor of it. I appreciate what Mr. Goldsmith is saying, and I would think it would be better, I guess, with the protections. I think it seems maybe not obvious, but that they're going to build storage units on it. It's already storage units. It's storage units right next to a railroad track. I'm in favor of it as is for those reasons. If it, like I said, if it came back to it makes more sense to have protections, I'd be in favor of that as well. But I'm in favor of it as is because I don't see it being realistic that they're going to bulldoze all of that and build a steel manufacturing plant or something.
Well, I think the concern is that they could leave today with it being rezoned and not follow through with the storage units and build something else on the 14 acres. That's right, Mr. Gore. Would be the concern, right?
That is my concern, that the fact is that once it's zoned industrial, now that property becomes very valuable. And they could sell it tomorrow and probably make a killing reselling that 14 acres. Granted, do I think that's going to happen? No. I've already seen they've had a storage unit, then they added on to it, and I think that business is just growing. I do have a comment, possible conflict, and this is a question for Phil. I just put it out there. My son, who works overseas, all of his stuff is in that storage facility. Is that a conflict since we take care of the bills and everything like that?
No, that's not a conflict because you do not have a financial stake in the outcome.
No, none whatsoever.
No, it's not a conflict.
Okay.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Currently, there are 7 storage units built, so you can build 2 more there per the PUD. So you could put more units in as is. 2 more.
You could, but, it's economically not as feasible to do that. And as has been pointed out, there's a real need for these in the township. The township has changed a lot since 2005.
I understand that, but I still will not go against our planner. We hire our planner to tell us what's good and what's bad, and she's saying for the 3rd time now, don't do this. This is not good. So
Well, I don't necessarily think
don't-
she's saying don't do this.
I'm pretty sure she's saying this
She's
is
giving
not
us her
good
opinions.
for what our planning is.
I'm ready to make a motion if you want to keep going.
Well, I just personally would say you drive over there, it's it's not in the middle of town. There's storage units already there. For me, when I originally got the information, it was a no-brainer, but, Mr. Steiner?
So we've got 2 options, really, and let's make sure we have the right order. It's either we make a motion or the applicant withdraws if they want to do something different. So
Can I speak to that? There's no way to take a deferral and make it and do the contract now, so try to get a contract that township and we can live with? I have to go through the whole process again? Why can't it be a condition that I come back, or not a condition, but that we defer and we agree to submit a contract that gives you the protections you want?
Well, it needs to be reviewed by the Planning Commission first, and because it's different. Pardon me? Oh, you would be involved in it, Lucy, and legal counsel would be involved in it. But since it's a change, Jerry, from a straight rezoning, you'd have to have a public hearing.
Do you have authority to send it back to the Plan Commission? I've had that happen before. Do they have authority to do that?
As long as a public hearing is
Yes,
conducted.
yes.
As long as you have anything to add to that? You need to have a public hearing.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I'm not sure how planning would do that, because wouldn't he need to submit something before they went to public hearing? And, I mean, we just can't say we're going to defer it back to planning.
No, a proposed contract rezoning agreement would have to be developed. It would have to be submitted to planning for their review. It would have to be reviewed by Lucy. It would be reviewed by my law firm. And then the Planning Commission would conduct a public hearing. They would make a recommendation. It would come back here. So
I think what's best is if he just withdrew and if that's what he's choosing, rather than us taking a vote, is what you're saying.
that's really up to the applicant. I don't
what
think.
that's what I'm asking.
That's really up to the applicant to make that decision.
Because we have to vote on what's before us.
You have to vote on what's before.
Not if he withdraws it.
Right, that's
Correct.
what I'm asking.
So what's your pleasure?
I guess we'll withdraw it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight, Mr. Steiner.
I want to make a quick comment. I mean, they've got an investment over there. It's not a ton of money, and they pay Board of Zoning, they pay Planning Commission fees. If that is their ultimate goal, that they want to look at a contract zoning, I'd be willing to make a motion to waive their zoning fee, their Planning Commission fees, because Mr. Parker had also come to 3 meetings that they had to defer because we were members short. And so, I don't know what the Tolson family paid him to come up, and I know it's not pennies. And again, it's not a huge amount for the planning. I think we should, that's my motion to defer those fees if they come back with a contract zoning.
Support that. Any comments? Just take a roll call, please.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you very
We're
much.
just going to take a quick roll call. Go ahead.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Peroni.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Montry.
Aye.
Mr. Gore.
Aye.
Ms. Janasek.
Aye.
First Reader votes aye.
Okay, and the motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. Okay, moving on to 8H, discussion of Class C liquor license. Mr. Goldsmith, if you don't mind, would you give a quick, brief history on the liquor license that we currently received back, and kind of where we're at with that process? Obviously, we just got it back, and explain the process that the authority of the board has.
Sure. Yeah, be happy to. Thank you. So there was a liquor license that was awarded, but it was conditioned on certain elements being met within a certain time frame. And I think due to a lot of factors, one of which I think was probably the pandemic, the entity to which the liquor license was awarded could not complete renovation, construction, and open their facility within the timeline established in the motion that granted or awarded the liquor license. And that, of course, was awarded subject to Michigan liquor control approval. So the board gave them some additional time, and but finally they just, for lack of a better term, threw in the towel, said we can't do it financially. We thought we could, we can't. So we have this available liquor license. The liquor license is available pursuant to our ordinance, and if the board doesn't have to do anything. The liquor license can stay there, or if the board thinks it's appropriate for economic development and that it's in the best interest of the township to initiate the process to award it to an applicant, or at least have applicants apply and make a presentation, and then you decide whether or not to award it based on the presentations received, you can do that. But you have to follow the ordinance. We're not in a position tonight to award a liquor license. We have to follow the process that's set forth in our ordinance, and then it's awarded subject to MLCC approval. So I think that's really all that need be said. It was brought to my attention by Madam Clerk, and I agree with her, not to steal her thunder, but we might want to amend our ordinance because it's an intense process, and the amount of time that's invested by township personnel is such that we may want to raise the fees involved with applying for a liquor license, because there's a lot of work that's invested by the clerk's office to process it. So the fee is minimal. It probably should be raised, or as Trudy mentioned to me, maybe the person or entity to whom it's awarded puts money in escrow like we do with many other projects in the township. It's not a tax. We can't tax them, but what it is, it's an offset to the time and effort that's put in to process that particular license, which would be for the benefit of the party to whom it's awarded.
What is the fee currently?
$400.
So,
That doesn't even cover a publication.
so I get raising it, so what are we trying to do? Cover the total cost of the town? I mean,
We charge $400, and that doesn't even cover the $500 one publication I do. I have to do at least one. Then we have attorneys. We have clerk's time on top of that. We have to do research. I have to send letters out to the sheriff's department when we do this. There's a lot of work involved, and we're not getting.
so what would the process look like to do that?
To amend the ordinance?
Yeah.
That, we could do that quickly. I could work with Trudy on that. We could do that fairly quickly.
I don't see at all a problem with covering the cost of publications, but to sit here and make money from it,
Yeah, we should
lose.
break even.
Yeah,
You can't make a profit. It becomes a tax.
yeah, I would be in favor of
But covering costs is
the
appropriate.
clerk
Yeah.
working with the attorney to get it in line of where we are at today. But I don't think that process should hold up our decision tonight of whether or not we should put it out.
Well, this was discussion. We can't.
No, I'm saying we
Well, we need that done before we put it out, because that money gets put up when they apply. That's our
we can-
ordinance. When they apply, they put the money up front.
Trudy and I could do that pretty quickly, I think, in terms
well,
of getting the ordinance
I guess
back
I wanna,
before you.
I guess part of my only reason for putting this on wasn't just to talk about the finances of it. It was to talk about whether or not the board would like to see this go out to the public and
Yeah, let's
take
get it out there.
applications and or sit on it, which I'm in disagreement of sitting on. I think, we have interest in it, let's put it out there. And so I think just by, what we're hearing, we're ready to move and put it out there and see what kind of applications we get.
I got a question. If we put it out there from start to finish, how long is that process? 6 months, 8 months, 3 months?
Well, we have to publish it and then
Public
give
hearing.
them time to get their information to us, because they have to submit it first, and then we have the public hearing and they present it. I mean, it just depends how long we give them
I would say that
to present.
few-
Could be a
few
month,
months
could be
max.
2 months.
Okay.
It just,
I want to get it out there. I want these businesses that are open to have a chance and have a crack at it. Because some businesses will make or break them if they get a liquor license or if they don't. I mean, to be blunt about it.
yeah, and it is our only one, and due to our census, we are not going to get any more. So it is our last one.
And that is part of the problem. It's a tool for the township to use, and that's when, when we had the Spring Arbor, part of the reason they were doing the huge renovation was because we had that available. So it is an economic tool, but, I don't see anything coming or any, so you could sit on it for years before, before it becomes something like that where somebody's going to put $1 million in the community. But you could still buy them throughout the county and bring them here.
Yes.
It's not like it's just
That
how
is
many
true.
we have to give. You could still,
We just had that
Purchase
happen.
them. Yeah.
One was brought to the township.
so, I mean,
But
somebody
I
wants
just want to
imagine
make
up.
sure our ordinance is cleared up so that we're
So
not
if you have a
losing.
business that is sitting and waiting, it would be inappropriate to me to be sitting on it.
Yes.
I agree. So, do we want, what kind of time frame do you guys need? So we can't make a motion tonight to start the process?
No.
We'd have to wait till next meeting
No,
then?
but we can work on it and bring the ordinance back.
Can you have it back by next meeting, you think?
No. Maybe the next one, but not
Okay.
Not
I
that
just don't
quick.
want to see it go 3-4 meetings and then,
Yeah,
you know.
not that
If you're
quick.
comfortable with the meeting after next,
The first meeting of February,
I'm comfortable with that.
we could
do
probably
that.
get it by the first, but not the next
What
one.
needs to be done?
Well, it's an old ordinance, so Trudy and I will go through the entire thing, and that won't take long, but we're going to focus in on an appropriate fee structure that'll allow the township to break even in the process. Then, when you're reviewing something, you say, oh, maybe we should change that too, and bring it back to the board. So it's not a zoning ordinance, so bring it back to the board, get it to you to review, and if you're comfortable with it, you adopt it. But
And that
if
same meeting, we
Trudy's
can have
comfortable
the-
with the first, then I am too.
And that same meeting we can have on there to put it out.
Yeah, we can make
You
that
could put
motion
it
at
on
the
the
same
agenda for
meeting.
that purpose, yeah.
Sounds good. Anybody else?
With that, yeah. 2 meetings?
Get a little longer. So. All right. We got public comment next. So. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving on here.
Is that anything? Is there a motion to put that into play?
We can't do anything.
No.
No,
Put
we're
on as
just, we're,
discussion, and we're going to work on it. We don't need a motion to,
No.
I mean, we got
We'll
consent
bring
from
it- we'll
everyone
bring-
that they want us to go forward with it, so.
we'll bring you back a product. You can look at it. If you like it, you can adopt it.
Okay. You guys want to email that to us, and we'll kind of all take a look at it as well. If anybody has any
we
comments,
get
they
it
can
written
send them
up,
back,
yeah.
written up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's already, I still don't know that I understand outside of adding a fee structure. We already have something to put a liquor license out to the public, correct?
But what
But
she's
they
saying,
have
if
to
we
apply
make a motion now and they
pursuant
go
to-
to apply tomorrow, then we don't know what to charge them, is what she's
Right.
saying.
But it's not like something where it's like we're adding some fees into it, building fees into the current thing we already have. Is that correct?
We
So
are.
that shouldn't be a thing that is.
We are building.
No, they
fees.
are.
They are.
We're right now, it's 400. We want to cover the cost
Right now,
that it
we're
costs.
losing money.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you change whatever it says in there from 400 to 1,200, I would think that isn't a.
Well, you
it's not a
can't-
restructuring of an entire document. I wouldn't think.
I will tell you the last time we went through the process and I reviewed the ordinance very carefully, especially when we were preparing for the process, basically to conduct a public hearing and take the license back because the conditions that were imposed on the party that was awarded the license, I saw and Trudy saw when we reviewed that, some glaring things that needed to be fixed because it's an older ordinance. It's been around.
Well, that's what my thought was that it's been that was awarded or this license was awarded originally in mid 2018, correct? That was my thought was like it's not something that we don't have and have not recently used. So that's why I was curious what that would take wouldn't be this arduous process, I wouldn't think.
It's not going to be arduous. It's just the two of us going through it, making the changes that we think appropriate based on Trudy's experience, based on mine, and then we'll get it to you and you can weigh in on it.
Okay.
Well, you're going to put both of them back on for that meeting in February as far as making a motion to put that liquor license out there also with.
We'll have two
Right.
separate motions to accept the ordinance amendment and then one to accept putting it out.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay, all right. Moving on to number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual. Come on up.
Okay, so my question is, after you put the license up there, to the public, then people start applying, right?
I'll answer all your questions in my public comment time, or Trudy can. This is just comment time.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I guess, I guess I'm just gonna follow the process, and whatever you guys say, to. I'll probably be here to the next meeting, and I mean like the meeting, you guys say in February. So then, we go from there, I guess, right? That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any more comments?
Happy New Year, by the way, everybody. My name is Jim Krieger, P.O. Box 281, Lambertville, Michigan. I've been wanting to ask something for a long time. 2 questions I have. It's regarding the Bedford TV station. I guess my first question would be, why or who turned the Bedford TV station into a radio station? And the second question, there's only one ad on the whole TV station, and that's regarding somebody selling light bulbs. Just want to know whose idea it was to turn mainly the TV station into a radio station and why. That's it. Happy New Year.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Gail Kane, 156 West Temperance. I'm hoping that Mr. Armatron's appointment will not entitle his business to profit with construction projects at Ivor Lindsay. Ironically, the irrevocable PUD was the protection for this property, so now we want to pull that. There are no dogs because it's private property. I also want to remind people that January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Tessa Duffin does a great job with that. And in the past, I dared to enter the abyss of the supervisor's office and soon discovered that without my knowledge, my visits were recorded or were shared in the moment via open phone lines. But the supervisor has requested that we validate rumors, so I'm going to publicly ask. It's a fact that you're frequently gone from the confines of your office due to your duties, especially since last March. You have meetings that you attend outside the township, and there's participation in an abundance of self-Kodak moments. The rumor is you are entertaining the thought of running for a different political office in the next election. So I'm going to ask you publicly, in the safe confines of this building, here's your chance to quell a rumor. Are you or are you not running for another office other than supervisor in 4 years? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a good night. Any more comments?
Ken Gagne, 8311 Lambert Street. I want to comment on tonight's meeting. It was handled more like a meeting should handle. And the other thing I want to comment on is the last meeting of last year. I was totally embarrassed the way the supervisor and one of the trustees acted. Matter of fact, I was confronted by 2 people in Lambertville wanting to know what is happening to the meetings. People just can't get along. And it wasn't only the last meeting of last year, it was several of the last meetings. And I was pretty much asked from 2 people to bring it up. We need it under control, more like tonight was. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more comments?
Sounds like myself here. Happy New Year. I want to commend you on the meeting tonight. I want to share a post. I was the one that posted it because of the last meeting, December 7th. Who can tame the tongue? One moment it speaks praise, and the next moment it speaks curses. Like the rudder of a great ship, the small tongue determines the course of our lives and the relationships we have with one another. The words we speak reveals the condition of our hearts. For the word is says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, As the words of God tells us, we can speak words of encouragement, blessings in life, or we can speak words of discouragement, curses, and death. What we speak to one another, whether friend or foe, determines the course of our relationship. We can bless those who curse us, pray for those who are enemies and mistreat us. We can turn the cheek if we are slapped. Not easy to do these things. I surely find it difficult in my own life. But I am determined by the help of the Holy Spirit who dwells within me to focus on these things in 2022. In this time of turmoil within our country and this world, Christians need to set the example. No one can tame the tongue. Only the Holy Spirit within us can accomplish what we require to do as believers. The Lord changed our heart from stone into flesh, and He has written His laws on our hearts. Love your neighbor as yourself, not a bad thing to start for 2022. I just want to encourage you, you set the example for the rest of this country at the lowest level of election. You set the example here, how you treat one another, how you talk, and how you discuss things. You can disagree, but you can do it in a civil manner. That's what I ask you to do this year. Set the example, because it goes from here to the county, to the state, to the federal level. And every level that of elected officials, we have to do the same thing as we approach you. We have to treat you with civility and with courtesy. And I pray that that's what we do here. We set the example here in Bedford Township. So when you have these meetings like you had tonight, this blesses me. It really does. I sat here tonight and I felt like I really saw at the best time. So do that continuing in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none, moving on to Township Board comment time. Mr. Steiner?
Just wanted to say about our police, fire, and EMS. The number of calls and runs that these departments are experiencing right now, I see not all, but I see a majority of the alerts that go out when they are dispatched. And I'll tell you, frankly, it's exhausting to me to even see all of the things that they're dealing with today. Our EMS personnel, I can't say enough about them, what they do to help this community. Another one recently I've seen over the past month, I think, and we have a fireman in the back of the room, he could probably acknowledge, I think I've seen at least 3 major fires where I've seen call-outs from, Erie, Morin Point, Whiteford, Ida, Monroe, everybody and their brother. And it's just been amazing what these guys are doing. And I know they're short-staffed as well. They've got COVID issues and other personal issues, I'm sure, just like any other staffing around this country. And again, I can't say enough for the men and women that work for our township. I'm going to publicly address a comment by Mr. Gagne and Mr. Tisdale. Mr. Peroni and I spoke, and we've agreed that 2021 needs to go in the past, 2022 needs to go forward. So let's do it.
I agree. Okay, Mr. Montre?
Nothing.
Okay, Mr. Gore?
Just hope everybody has a safe 2022 and things are going to move in the right direction.
Nothing additional for me. Everyone have a good weekend. Good night.
Ms. Janizek?
I have nothing. Have a good evening.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Just a couple things. The audit was filed the end of December. You all have a copy in front of you that will be presented at the next board meeting. It went very smoothly. This was a really good firm to work with. Also, for the residents, the Township Hall will be closed on Monday, January 17th, to observe Martin Luther King Day. Other than that, I have nothing.
Okay. Have a meeting this Friday with the county ARPA committee on the sewer and water. I'll be representing the township on that committee, and one of the grant requests is from us in the amount of $200,000 to fix some drainage areas that are bad in the community. So hopefully we can get that passed. But there's roughly $50 million of requests through the county just in that area. I'll also address the comments. There's times at this job and that this board things get tense, and Sometimes my actions get out of control, and a lot of times it's because I care so much. So I've apologized to Mr. Steiner and the board and the community for, letting my actions get out of line. And, it's something I got to work on, and we always do. I just want to mention a few things with the season, snow plowing. When we get 5+ inches, we will be pulling our seasonal and partnering with Stoneco. Once again, they'll be doing Lambertville side. Township will be doing Temperance side. Please, please, please keep your cars off the neighborhood streets during these times. I'll be putting announcements out when we do the seasonal, but it's very difficult when cars park side by side neighborhood roads to get them plows down. Sometimes you have to stop. So please be aware of that. If it's 5 inches or more, expect that. I want to thank our resource officers, Randy Krupp and Jeremy Lestocks, on what they do. Being in the schools every day, it's pretty cool what they do and the job they get to do. So I appreciate them. The waterline project has been going very well. There's been some, phone calls from residents from some situations, where my property's, a mess. Give them time. It'll look better than it, hopefully, than when they got there. They're supposed to, but if you do have issues, the Spicer Group is overseeing the project. You can contact David Wanner at 734-823-3308. He's a project superintendent. Give him a call if you have a piece of property that's been affected by it and you want answers to it, because that's the number I'll give you if you call my office. I do want to remember Don Adams. He was one of our local historians that passed in the last month or so, and just an amazing guy, amazing family guy. His family goes back to the 1800s in our township. I want to thank him for his military service and his family for sharing him with our community. He put so much time into documenting and teaching us about Bedford Township. I know whenever I had a question about the history, he was one of the first people I'd call. So he'll be greatly missed. Other than that, things are going very well, and everybody have a great new year, and we'll...
One more thing.
One more thing?
It's not our TV station. I don't know what he's referring to.
Yeah, so that's not... Township have anything to do with advertising. It's Buckeye Cable.
Yeah, I'm not sure what channel he's even
Something
looking
they're
at,
doing,
but it's not our station.
We don't sell advertisements. It's not our station, so yeah, there's nothing we're doing. Buckeye Cable overseas. So
doesn't the school have one of the channels? Do we have a channel in the school? No.
We used to have the two stations,
Yeah.
but when I clicked on it after the last time he asked, it's playing our stuff. So it's not that channel either. I'm not sure what channel he's looking at. Ours is scrolling all our meetings and everything.
You know what channels, Jim? Buckeye may be able to answer your question. Then I.
Yeah, if you
Okay, so you gotta
have
ask
an
him.
Ohio-based box, you will not get our channel. You have to tell Buckeye that you need a Michigan box.
okay. So if you have that issue, there you go. Thank you, Jim. Okay, I look for a motion to stand adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Okay, support. Okay, we're stand adjourned.